Yo, what's up, family? Yo, I'm gonna do another job one. I'm gonna title this one real simple words. You're fired. Now, I did other videos touching on similar stuff like this, ways to get fired on your job, and why jobs take advantage of good workers. But watch this one. And the reason I had to do this one, because this story, it bothered me for a long time when I used to work for FedEx. This really bothered me. Now, when you get hired at FedEx back in the days, I drove the tractor trailers. They sent us to training for like a week in a whole nother state. While we was in training, and you're gonna see why this bothered me. And you tell me, did it bother you? Or do you got a similar story like this? But I don't think you got one like this. But anyway, when we was in training, part of the training was the guy during orientation, he told us about how if you ever have an accident, now this was pretty cool. He said, if you ever have an accident, don't ever try to hide it. He said, you're supposed to report it. No matter how big or how small, report it. And they'll take it from there. Okay, that makes sense, right? Okay, now watch this story. So then he told us this story here. He said one day, one of the drivers driving the tractor trailer had a delivery in a residential house. And it was one of them houses where the house sits way back and has a really long driveway and the nearest neighbor is far and all that, right? So the drive, and we're not supposed to drive on people's driveway. Even if they say you could, you're not supposed to. Makes sense, right? Okay, so anyway, he parks near the driveway, go up and knock on the person's door and tell them he have a delivery. And the lady says, oh, sure, you could drive it down my driveway because it's a really heavy, she knew what she was getting. She said it was very heavy. He said, nah, we're not supposed to drive on your driveway. She said, it's okay. He said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll come close to your driveway. I got a lift gate and I'll just use a pump jack and I'll walk it down. Makes sense. Everything sounds good so far. He said he made the delivery, everything was swell. After he finished, he picked everything up, closed his lift gate up, shut the door. But now he had to make a U-turn. Well, he made a turn. He said when he made the turn, as he made the turn, the trailer make a little fishtail. The trailer clipped her mailbox, which hangs out by the street. It clipped the mailbox, knocked it down. He immediately stopped the truck, got out, assessed the damage, and was like, wow. Went back to the house, knocked on the door, and told the lady what had happened. When he told her what happened, she started cracking up laughing. And he said, man, I really apologize. He said, listen, I'll repay for you a new mailbox. Matter of fact, she said, no. She said, I'm really laughing because he didn't understand why she was laughing. And then she said, the reason I'm laughing is because you actually did me a really big favor. And he was like, excuse me, I don't quite understand. I damaged your mailbox and I'm gonna replace it. I'm gonna pay for it. I'll do you a new one. She said, no. Trust me, you don't have to. Like I said, you did me a really big favor. He's like, what do you mean? She said, I've been telling my husband for the longest to tear that old mailbox down and put us a new one up. It's raggedy, it's old, and I don't like it. It's ugly. He said, oh, wow. So she said, so you actually did me a favor. Now he has to put me a new mailbox. He has no choice. So the guy said, well, ma'am, that may all be fine and dandy. Because he was astonished by her response, And as always, let's still give you a word of the day. What does the word astonished mean? It means, yeah, you said it. It means extremely surprised. And that's how he was. He was like astonished when she was laughing. So he said, but ma'am, still, it's my fault. Regardless you want it, I did you a favor, not from the way he said it's still my fault. He said, if you don't mind, the weekend, I would love to come up here. He said, I do masonry work. He said, I will buy you a new mailbox and I will build a concrete foundation. I do you a brick one, I do you a beautiful one. And she said, no, you don't have to do that. Trust me, like I said, you did me a favor. Once again, he was astonished, extremely surprised. And he said, nah, ma'am. He said, if you don't mind, I insist, because this is my fault. So what happened? The weekend came, the way the guy told the story in the orientation, the weekend came, the guy went, bought all the supplies, bought a beautiful mailbox, went up to the lady's house, let her know he was there, and she was like, I told you don't have to. Still astonished. He said, but ma'am, please let me do this. It's a favor from me to you, but it's really correcting a wrong. Stay with me, folks. Correcting a wrong, that's what he was doing. So she said, okay, fine. He did the quick creek cement so it could dry quick. Then he did a nice brick, a brick mailbox, and then with the one that goes right in, beautiful from what I'm told, beautiful. To the point when a lady came out, and when he was all finished, he put the little flag with it and everything. When she came out, she was astonished. Remember, extremely surprised. She was like, holy smokes, this is amazing. She said, now I know my husband, he had planned to do a new one, but he would have never did nothing as beautiful as this. This is amazing work. And the guy was just so happy that, you know, he corrected a wrong. And the lady was astonished at the work, and she was astonished, you know, so like, wow, this was amazing. You didn't have to, but I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Okay. The husband comes home. When the husband comes home, he calls, he's astonished by it. So what do? The next day, on a Monday, because it was a weekend, on a Monday, he calls FedEx, and he tells FedEx of the wonderful work of this driver that you guys had. And it was like, yeah, what is the guy's name? You know, and let's just say the guy's name was Joe Blow. Let's make up a name, Joe Blow. He said, yeah, Joe Blow had a delivery here, and I just want to let you guys know, you guys have a stupendous, great worker. This guy, he delivered our package, and he did a great job. And I just want to let you know, also, he built us a new mailbox, and they, right away, remember your Miranda rights. Remember what they say? You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say could be used against you, right? And that's what they did. They said, what do you mean he did great work? He made the delivery. And it was like, he said, yes. But also, you know, the guy did us a great favor with the mailbox. And they was like, what do you mean, did you a great favor? And he said, well, he built us a mailbox. And FedEx was like, what do you mean built us a mailbox? See, the guy should have kept quiet. He said, well, it turns out it was a little hiccup. The guy had clipped the mailbox, and my wife told him he didn't have to redo it. I was going to do it anyway, but the guy insisted. He came up here. He said, man, this guy did excellent professional work. And they said, hey, sir, do you mind sending us some pictures of it? The guy sent them pictures. The guy told him all the work that he did. And guess what? From the way the story goes, when the guy came into work the next day, they fired him. Now you tell me that ain't some nonsense. So while we in orientation, I said, what? They fired him? That don't make sense. I said, the guy corrected a wrong. Here go the guy in orientation. He said, yeah, but he never reported it. I said, yeah, I get that part. I said, but it was something so minor that the owner didn't make a big deal about it. Matter of fact, she was astonished by his work, and he came and he corrected a wrong. The guy still kept pushing the envelope of, yeah, but he didn't report it. That's the main thing. Man, me and this guy was going back so much in orientation. He was like, look, Spinks, we got other things going. I mean, you keep going on with this here. I don't understand what part don't you get. The guy was supposed to report it. He didn't report it. And that's why we had to fire him. FedEx is not in the business of firing people. I said, I can't tell. I said, every time I hear people getting fired here, y'all claim it's an orientation, but y'all fired them for the most minute of things. And the orientation and the arbitration is nonsense. I just couldn't let it go because I said, this don't make sense. You mean to tell me a guy spent his own money and time and corrected a wrong, which these people was blown away by, more than happy, totally astonished, extremely surprisingly astonished, happy. And y'all, the way y'all paid him back, the guy called him and said how much of a great worker he is and what great work he did, and y'all fired him? I had a hard time dealing with that, man. I was like, yo, y'all some BS.
But they didn't even give the guy a warning. They just called him up and told him he's fired?
Brought him in and told him because he didn't report it. Like, now I do get it, like they said, no matter how big or how small, you just got to report it. Now I get it. I remember I almost knocked the whole building down. I know that may sound crazy. I was backing the trailer in. They had built an expansion wall. Why? Because you had to back into a dark building where it didn't have lights. And that's a no-no. Any truck driver know. Put some lights there, or put you backing into a dark bay doors. It's like, yo, what the heck? And they had just built an expansion wall. And I knocked that wall down. I kept going into the outer wall. Almost knocked the whole building down. But I reported it. I didn't get fired. And now this was way bigger than that guy. So I get the point of, like they said, no matter how big or no small. But come on. Y'all was supposed to have some consideration with that story to say, this guy did correct the wrong. Look, don't let it happen again. You went about it wrong. You went about it wrong and right. You correct the wrong with the lady, but you're supposed to notify us. I get it, because they could say a lawsuit or whatever the case. But the guy corrected it wrong. Man, I'm even to this day, it's many years later, that story still bothers me. Let's move on. Like I said, title of the video, you're fired. We heard of many reasons and ways people get fired. Sometimes people get fired for some of the most stupidest of reasons. Y'all seen that video where that one girl, they called her up. They was complaining about how many times she'd been late. They said, what time you start? She said, I started at 6 o'clock. They said, yeah, but the other day you came in, you started at 6:12. And she was on the phone like this, she's like, 12 minutes, 12 minutes. What do you mean 12 minutes? Let that be your business. And they showing up late. You wouldn't want to tolerate that nonsense. You see what I'm saying? But like I said, it's so many reasons and ways people get fired. Watch this one. I'll give you another one. Y'all all remember the urine, when you're at your job, every now and then a job, you gotta give a drug test, right? A random drug test. Y'all remember that video I did? Random drug test. How about this? Y'all all heard this story before. And for the few people out there that haven't, here we go. A guy's on his job. On this day, they tell him he gotta give a random drug test. Meaning he gotta give some urine, right? So, turns out, all of a sudden, I think the way the story goes, he goes home because I'm real sick, whatever, this and that. So the next day he came in to do the urine test. But what he did, he thought he was slick. He got the urine from somebody. See? I remember I used to work at a methadone clinic. All these methadone patients used to ask me, could I give them urine? I'm like, look, man, don't get me caught up in y'all nonsense. I ain't doing that nonsense. Like, yo, come on, man, if you could just give me some, man, I could give you $20, I could give you $40. You could just piss in the cup for me. I'm like, look, don't get me mixed up in y'all nonsense. But anyway, back to the story. So the guy had paid somebody, whatever he did, he got somebody else's urine. The next day when he came in, he said, I feel better now, I could give the urine for my drug test. He gave the urine. Now, there's a little funniness with this story because we all know when you give urine, it has a temperature in it. Obviously, his urine didn't have a certain temperature because he had it in a bag and he squeezed it out into the cup. And they obviously wasn't in the room watching him. Some places watch y'all. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Sometimes the person be right there watching you, especially if you're on parole and stuff like that. But anyway, the next day he comes in, he gives urine clean urine, as a sample from who he got it from. Y'all know this story, and the ones that don't, his is. So when he gives the urine, days later they tell him, now remember, what's the title of this video? You're fired. Stupid reasons people get fired. Days later, after the samples come back, they tell him, hey, Liz, they bring him in the office, and they say, hey, look, John, we got good news and bad news. The good news is you passed the drug test, man. You're clean as a whistle, man. You got no drugs in your system, no alcohol, nothing. That's really good. He said, okay, then what's the bad news? The bad news is that you're 4 months pregnant. This fool went and got his girlfriend or his sister or somebody to give urine. Like, how dumb? But see, this is what some people do. Like I said, title of the video, you're fired. Sometimes people get fired for the most dumbest of reasons. How about this one? Let's go with another. But in the meantime, I want y'all, tell me some of the stupidest reasons you know somebody got fired. Or maybe you got fired yourself. Remember Craig on Friday? Why Craig got fired? He got fired for stealing some boxes. Remember when Smokey said, damn, man, what you trying to build, a clubhouse, man? You got fired for, how you get fired on your day off? Stupid joker. I'm gonna give you one last one. Another true story. Some of y'all heard this story, some of you not. How many times people try to do insurance claims? Did y'all ever see the story of the guy? He claimed he got real severely hurt at his job. And of course his job was astonished, extremely surprised. They was astonished because now when he came into work, he was like this. Barely could walk, had the cane. Oh. Every day, even he driving his car, he barely could walk. Oh. Always with the cane, right? Always with the cane. Always had the cane. Oh, everywhere he go, he real careful how he do everything. Barely could move, right? But then that same guy, matter of fact, he was a fireman. I think out of New York. This shit was really funny. This same guy that could barely walk, and they got video of him all across town because they hired a private investigator. And they got videos of him coming out of his house, going to the grocery store, and he always with the cane and barely could walk. He at the grocery store with one bag in his hand and the other bag with the cane because he know they was watching him. Or at least he figured he was watching. So he was not astonished. He was not extremely surprised. He was expecting it. But oh and behold, this guy got a vacation that came up. And he went all the way from where he lived in New York, let's say, and flew to Hawaii on a vacation. And while he was on vacation with his family, because now he figured I'm miles and miles and hundreds of miles away. He's on vacation. Remember how he was walking all that time? Barely could walk. Now while he's on vacation, believe it or not, the private investigator flew all the way to Hawaii as well and caught the guy out there on the surfing. Everybody go surfing, surfing USA. Everybody go surfing. Yo, the guy was totally fine. So now, it's crazy how it's like, you busted. So you already know what happened when that guy, not only he probably got charges brought on for insurance fraud, but of course the job was like, what? You're fired. Yo, he probably lost all pension money, all kind of stuff because of a false insurance claim. But y'all know what I'm talking about. I've known so many people get fired for some silly stuff. I'll tell you a very not good reason to get fired, but it happens all too often. See, a lot of times people think your coworkers are your friends. You start telling them your stuff that you're doing, and then they start running their mouth, and it backfires on you. To some degree, that happened to me. But another reason a lot of people get fired, all that calling out sick, all that thinking you beating the system for whatever scheme you're doing. Yeah, it's all kind of silly reasons. Yeah, I remember one story. I remember a person called out more than, what is it, after 2 days you gotta have a sick note on most jobs, especially union jobs. I remember how did the story go? The person, they lived in California, and the person called out 3 or 4 days. So now they came back with a doctor's note. So it looked legit. Only to find out that this person copied the doctor's note off of the internet on Google, and the doctor's note, they was too stupid to erase the part where it said it came from New York, and they all the way in California. So you know what the job said to them when they read the note. They said, "You're fired, you stupid butt." But you know what I'm talking about, folks. Please, drop me a line. Tell me some hilarious ways you know how people, if not yourself, done got fired from a job. And you like, man, I can't believe it. Sometimes I will say this on a positive note in closing what I would say. Sometimes when you get fired, it's like that the mother bird pushing you out of the nest. Sometimes it's a good thing. It motivates you to do and follow your dreams you wanted to do in the first place. Because without that push, a lot of times we keep saying, I'm gonna work another 2 years. I'm gonna work another 5 years. You just keep pushing it more and more, opposed to now you got fired. Now you have to follow your dreams and your aspirations, and it might wind up being a beautiful thing. So sometimes it's a good thing. And on that note, peace. Let me know what y'all, give me y'all stories. I want to crack up to some of y'all stories. Subscribe, share, like, and comment. Peace.